quickly AAA. We take the fairy dust, AAA bond, and now everybody wants to own these AAA bonds, so we spread it all over the world because government knows best, and they're angels. So we've got the debt's still not so good, income's still not so good, unemployment isn't really what they're saying it is. So what do we do? How do we fix this? It is totally fixable. We have an amazing economy. You look at what Americans have accomplished. Look at the standard of living that this country has generated for the entire world. What we have done, the innovations that we have come up with. You just need to leave us alone. You just need to back off. How do you grow an economy? Well, there's two main factors to an economy. Labor and capital. Capital meaning technology. You've got trucks, you've got computers, you've got the technological knowledge of how to build stuff. Well, if we look at our productivity levels, fortunately our productivity levels are pretty good. So we can't tweak a hell of a lot more on that. If we look at labor, not so good. The problem with labor is that we've had in this country what happens, unfortunately, in a lot of countries, when the government goes and says, don't worry about your retirement, I totally have you covered. Fertility rates tend to go down. Countries that don't have that, your children tend to be a little bit of your retirement plan or a nice backup, right? Well, if you don't have to worry about that, then your children are more just a drain because they don't have a benefit to you in your retirement years. They're simply a cost in your prime earning years. So it's rational. I have kids, they're just a pain. Change their diapers. So fertility rates went down. When Social Security started, for every person who was on Social Security, there was 19 people contributing to it. That worked out really well. And it just oddly enough, not sure how this happened, the age at which Social Security benefits kicked in was around life expectancy. I'm sure that was a mistake. We never changed it. And people, shockingly enough, are living a little bit longer, and they didn't have as many kids. So now you've got about 2 people for every 1 person in Social Security, and we're very quickly hitting where it's going to be 1.5 to 1. Obviously, that's a system that's got to be majorly overhauled on that one. There's first the downside. You can't tell somebody who's been promised this all their life that they're screwed. You just can't. That's not fair. That's violating a contract. Now, as much as the system is broken, it's a contract. They were given this promise. We have to honor the promise. But we can work with it. If you look down at what happened in Chile, fantastic, go type up. Jose Piñera. He and his brother is Sebastian Piñera, who's now the president of Chile. He took over their version of Social Security in Chile and turned it into sort of a privatized, semi-privatized, where the money that they take away from you, you can actually invest, and this is what I was talking about with my friend. they take the money away from you because, you know, it's the government. They're baby steps in getting them to not control so much. But that money doesn't get spent. The problem with our Social Security system was that that money is gone. There was no Social Security lockbox. They took the money that was savings because we weren't responsible enough to save for ourselves. So they took our savings and spent it for us. That worked out really well. He was able to, and Chile was in a very similar situation to what we're in. They were able to, within about 10 years, pretty much fix it. And now if you look at Chile, Chile is one of the most affluent nations in Latin America. Their economy is doing so much better. And here's a great example of how well they're doing. I was at a conference with Jose and woke up in the morning, earthquake in Chile. You guys probably know my ribbons. It was right after the one in Haiti. I wake up and see it. Oh my God, it's a horrible earthquake. This is all terrible. I go running downstairs and see Jose at breakfast. Hey, what are you doing? Are you going home? This is awful. And he looks at me like, I've got 3 heads. Are you kidding me? This is Chile. We're fine. That shows you how far that country has gone. And we look at our regulations. We've got Dodd-Frank, Dodd-Frank killing people's ability to manage their own risk. You've got taxation that is out of control. We've got the highest corporate tax rate in the developed world, and yet not many companies, and I'm okay with this, but not many actually pay it because of the loopholes, except for the ones who can get away with that are the really big ones. There we go, another barrier to entry. The really big ones can get away with it. The ones that are trying to break in, they can't. So you've got the small competitors that can really effectively push down this too big to fail. Those companies, because we've got too many of these too big to fail, not just in financial services, but all over the place. But way too many of these. The reason they are that big is because who can compete with them? You can't break through. Who can get the regulation under control? We get the taxation under control. We let Americans do what Americans do best. Innovate. Don't take care of us. Let us be free. Get back to what the Founding Fathers knew was the beauty of the individual. The individual taking care of themselves ends up with innovation. Adam Smith, in his Wealth of Nations. It is not the butcher, the baker, the brewer, their benevolence that gives me my dinner. It is their own self-interest. Before capitalism, the only way you could amass wealth was through force. Capitalism allowed liberty. Liberty and capitalism cannot live without each other. But as a word, a suggestion, capitalism has been stolen from us, the term. We can't use it anymore. Capitalism has come to mean crony capitalism. When we say capitalism, we think Wall Street. That isn't capitalism. There's two forms of wealth creation. Those who generate a product or service that is of great value to society, they're able to do it at a cost that allows them to charge a price that we all think is reasonable, and we're willing to pay it. That, Steve Jobs, creates enormous wealth. The other form of wealth creation is the Stan O'Neills of the world, who take advantage of the system, the Bernie Madoffs. They're rat bastards. They figure out how to take advantage of a system, of the crony capitalism, and they work it. But how can they do that? They can only do that with a government that is absolutely willing to give them that power. But again, there's nothing new about that. We don't have these horrible people in government. We have just people. There's nothing different about them than the people who were in government 200 years ago when the Founding Fathers showed up. The only difference is these guys have more power. The Founding Fathers respected the innate limitations of mankind. That's why they wanted to keep government small. And people, you probably get this all the time. You try to talk to your friends or neighbors, and they get all angry with you because you want smaller government, and that just made your evil, and you don't care about old people and children, you want that. Right. No, it is simply respect for human nature. And this one, this I've noticed kind of gets to people. Because I've talked, he was mentioning that I'm on the board for the Dreyfus Initiative, which is with Richard Dreyfus, who is quite convinced that he's completely nonpartisan. We're working on that. But I even got him to understand this. The reason you want small government is out of respect for human nature. And out of respect for the pressures that they're under. You look at Solyndra, what happened with that. Every politician is always going to be under pressure by their cronies, the people who got them into office, to give them special favors. If the politicians don't have the power to give them special favors, they're not going to be under the pressure to do it. Don't put them in that position. It is respect for the beauty and the frailties of humankind that requires us to have a small government. We shrink that down. We restore the pride that Americans actually can solve our own problems. And we've done it before. Things were, in many ways, far worse back with Carter than they are right now. Americans still right now have a lot of gumption. We have a lot of fight. It's scary. It's a little misdirected. Occupy protests, kind of nerve-wracking, but you know what that shows us? There's fight. I love it, even though what they're saying is misguided, they're kind of hitting the wrong, but they fight. That, getting a little direction on that, getting a little bit more enlightenment, that kind of energy, we can harness it, and we can take it back. So with that, guys dealing with? What kinds of questions are you guys facing?
Let's do that.